I live over on Lake Petenwall. Been there about 14 years, retired, love to sail. Sailed on the lake for over 30 years. But over those years, got pretty used to the fact that Petenwall sometimes get kind of cruddy in the summer. Blue-green algae, some of you might be aware of it, you've seen it. And we, just put up with it. And sometimes it was so bad, you just stayed off the water. Well, here's some examples of what a bad case of blue-green algae on Petenwall. That's caked along the beach. There's 3 rows of it. Next. Looks like paint in the water. Next. If you had the heart to go boating, that might be what it looked like. Next. Here's a satellite shot of the early June of the early bloom of the algae. It floats on the surface of the water and the wind blows it from shore to shore. So if one shore is bad, you'd maybe seek another shore if what you were after was a bay to swim in. Next. And then I ran across this poster that was at Trail's End. It spoke to me loud and clear. Want to help improve water quality of Petenwall and Castle Rock? Meeting date, April 3rd, 2007. Next. 60 people showed up. It was unbelievable. Showed up at Adams Friendship. Meeting was conducted by several DNR folks, county conservationists, and River Alliance of Wisconsin. And there was such a large number of enthusiasts that wanted to get involved and see what we could do to help with this matter. Now, I knew absolutely nothing about improving water quality, but because I lived here and wanted to recreate on that lake, I wanted to get involved. Next. So over the next year, once a month we'd gather. We had invited speakers to come in. We learned things like the Wisconsin River one time was so bad that you wouldn't even want to go near it. It was so dark. It was just, it was way before my time. And when the EPA came through with the Clean Water Act in the early 70s, permits started to be necessary for industry that were using the river to have permits to dump back into the river. And these permits were to help clean up the water. And over a period of 20 years, they did just that. And as a result of the water getting clearer, it wasn't as dark. Sunlight was able to penetrate. And sunlight penetrates through the water and grows blue-green algae. So algae wasn't always part of Petenwall. Algae comes as a result of the water, believe it or not, better than it used to be. So River Alliance of Wisconsin, I credit them as an agent, as a nonprofit group that has done just a tremendous amount to help us follow the steps, because again, we really didn't know what we needed to do. Next. There's a group of citizens. Back in 2007, we formed our group. We gave ourselves a name, Petenwall and Castle Rock Stewards. Next. Packers. We drew up an articles of incorporation, bylaws. Next. A logo was drawn up by one of our members. Next. Within a year, we acquired a nonprofit status so we could collect dues and create membership, and on we go. Next. We attended listening sessions that were held in the area. I remember having attended listening to Senator Russ Feingold and Congressman Tom Petri. Next. And Congressman Tom Petri in the center here, he says, I'll come right to the lake, and he says, we'll sit down and talk. And here's what he told us. Next. Best thing you could do is link some citizen groups up and down the river. So we've got Rhinelander, back up, Rhinelander, Lake Wausau, Big O Plain, Packers, Stewards of the Dells, Lake Wisconsin, and then there's the lower Wisconsin River citizen group. Next. We then held an event that is really kicked off the whole thing, and that was we invited politicians to the water. Next. And we took them out by boat. Next. Here we have DNR Secretary Kathy Stepp, Representative Ed Brooks. Next. Julie Lassa is here some. I know she's there.
Shortest person in the group.
Okay, next. Okay, this was all at Barnum Bay. Next. Oh, back up. There we go. This was prior Scott Krug, Representative Marlon Schneider, speaking with Congressman Ron Kynes' aide, Mark Sykes, right there at Barnum Bay. Next. The next, that was in August. The next June, headlines in the Wisconsin Rapids paper was the legislature had set aside $750,000 to begin a project on Petenwell. Okay, $150,000 a year for a 5-year period. Next. This project was what's called, it was a water quality study, and the technical scientific name is total maximum daily load. It's an EPA name, TMDL. And what we do is measure, I'll talk about that in just a bit, but this slide here is really pretty important. In 91 to 96, there was a tremendous amount of effort to draw up a plan, comprehensive plan for Castle Rock and Petenwell. In 2001, funding was sought from the state to create a project. It failed. 2008 comes along Packers, and we had invited those politicians, got the money, the $750,000 over 5 years, and now we have a project getting started. Okay. Yeah, rather than come back to the slide, I'll finish this out, but I'm getting ahead of myself here. We went for 5 years. The $750,000 was used up, which, by the way, other money came in, grant money came in from the DNR and from the Corps of Engineers to make that pot of money almost $2.5 million. But that was used up. The work was done by 2015, but the project wasn't done. So now, Representative Marlon Schneider is no longer in office, and we have a new person, Representative Scott Krug. So a couple of us from Packers made an appointment with Scott. We met at Culver's. We introduced ourselves and told him all about what our project was. And he was pretty familiar with the Petenwell, and he says, "You got my support." So the next time when we needed some money, I called Scott, called him right on the phone. Don't be afraid to call. I said, "Scott, we need some money." He says, "How much?" I says, $238,000. He called back, $235,000. He called back 2 weeks later, got it. And that allowed the project to continue, okay, to where we're at today. In 2017, the TMDL will be complete, so we're getting really close. Next. Some of the things that the citizens have done. So this is the group of Packers. There's 19 of us who volunteered to monitor 36 different spots on Petenwell and Castle Rock for a 3-year period. We did it every 2 weeks for a 3-year period. It went from May 10th to September of 2013. And these are the people getting training as to know what to do. Next. In addition, we've toured the Neenah wastewater treatment plant to kind of get familiar with how an industry would use the river. We learned about point source and what efforts are taken to reduce phosphorus, which I'll talk about in a minute. Next. We toured a 400-acre dairy or 400-cow dairy operation just to kind of expand our knowledge so we could kind of go about this project in a knowledgeable way. Next. Last fall, we held what we called another Pontoons in Politics. We invited 5 county conservationists, one from Marathon, one from Portage, one from Wood, one from Juneau, and one from Adams. The county conservationists came along with their county board members that were on the Land Water Conservation Committee. We had almost 50 people attend. We put them on board this boat, and we went out on to Castle Rock to identify blue-green algae to get more local support. Next. This is Greg Lowe at the Mike, County Conservationist for Juneau County. He's speaking to the group. There was someone at the Mike almost the entire hour and a half we were on that boat, speaking and sharing information. Next. Okay, here what we have now is the watershed of the Wisconsin River. That's 20% of the state. Next. These were spots that were chosen on peat and wall. Readings of phosphorus level, 95 parts per million, 111 parts per million. Down here in Castle Rock, 98 parts per million where the Yellow River comes in. Next. Here is this is the larger watershed of the river, and you can see here up at the Big O Plain, okay, right here where it flows into the Wisconsin River. Phosphorus level of 252 parts per million. Okay, let's check another one here. Yellow River, where the Yellow River comes in, 116 parts per million. Okay, what do these numbers mean? These numbers need to be down to 40 in order for Peatwell and Castle Rock to have to meet the Clean Water Act. Okay, so we've got a big drop. Now, how's that going to take place? Next. Okay, I'll talk about that in a moment. This last October, 7 citizen groups along the river that I referred to earlier went down to Madison and scheduled a meeting with the DNR Secretary Kathy Stepp. Sat down face to face.